to see so many friends and people in the audience. I want to know, how many educators or people in education do I have here in the audience today? And welcome to everybody else from all the other industries. You know, across the board, there are so many opinions when it comes to the role of technology in our lives and in our careers. We see on one hand the many unprecedented opportunities for innovation and efficiency. And at the same time, we also see many challenges with ethics and integrity, with privacy and with security. For example, if we look at education, many people are worried about the integrity of both how we create and how we learn. Recent studies share that 66% of leaders and educators are worried about kids using AI in the wrong ways. And 52% of students are worried that they're going to be accused of using it in the wrong way. For a profession that prides itself on relationships being the heart and center of what they do, that's a pretty toxic environment. When we head to the workplace, we see a bit of a different story. We hear from leaders that 66% of them don't even want to hire somebody unless you have AI skills. And 71% of employers are saying, we would rather have somebody with less experience and AI skills compared to somebody with more experience and no AI skills. With every single advancement that we see with technology, that gap between the classroom and the career, between our schools and our workplaces, grows wider and wider and wider. Yet within each challenge is always an opportunity, one that I imagine brought many of you here today to ask, is there a different way, both in how we learn and in how we create and work? It's important to remember, though, that as we do this work, as we were so beautifully reminded this morning, that this is not just a workforce challenge about how do we make sure everyone has a job, or a technology challenge to make sure everyone learns AI. At its core, this is really a human challenge to make sure that each and every single individual has the access, the exposure to be able to learn the skills and the mindsets needed to navigate their world. This is a challenge that, unfortunately, I know all too well. My name is Sabba, and I graduated in 2007. It was a year that was significant, not just for me going and becoming a first-year history teacher. It's a year that was significant for the world as well, as it's the year that Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, which many people would say was our last big inflection point with technology. Just a few months later, 2008 would be another significant year for me. I got my first job and I got my first layoff notice all in the same year. But 2008 was also significant not just for me, but for the world as well, as we entered the global recession. Year after year, I would bounce around different jobs, getting hired, getting laid off, getting hired, getting laid off. And it wasn't until I read a book by Seth Godin called Linchpin, where he said, the reason you're so confused is because that deal where you go to school, you get good grades, you get a job and graduate and live happily ever after, it expired and nobody told you. To be successful in today's world of work, you need to be what he called a creative problem solver. Somebody who is able to not complain about all the things that were happening around them, rather be somebody who took a challenge and was able to identify the gaps that existed that could create an opportunity to design something new and ask, is there a different way for us to do whatever challenge it is that we're facing? After bouncing around all those different jobs, it really helped me learn that one creative problem-solving skill. And after really mastering sort of what is a very timeless skill of creative problem-solving, I was able to then later get recruited by companies like the University of Southern California and Apple. And so I've now spent the past decade of my career researching what are the methods and mindsets that we need that are going to help us navigate existing and emerging technologies. 2 years ago, I quit my job at Apple so that I could spend more time with people like you at events like this, sharing the methods and mindsets that I believe are going to make you irreplaceable in a world with AI. This challenge is not one that is just unique to me. It's one that till this day, 75% of high school students share with us that they feel really unprepared to make decisions about their future. So today, I'm excited to share a little bit about how do we turn these challenges into opportunities. Because many of us, especially those of us who are here, are probably likely very optimistic about the future, but also very overwhelmed by the pace of change and the uncertainty of what is going to come next. To be able to bridge this divide between the classroom and our careers, it's going to be essential that we collaborate not just with each other as humans, but with our AI tools as well. One way in which I've learned to turn these types of challenges into opportunities is by using a method called design thinking. How many of you in here are familiar with design thinking? Okay, couple, okay, amazing. You see, most people, when there's a challenge or a problem, they'll immediately go to creating a solution. But you might have heard Einstein share, if I had 60 minutes, I'd spend 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. And that's essentially what we do when we practice design thinking. You see, most people with the problem, they'll start over here at the very end of what we do with design thinking. With design thinking practices, we begin with empathy. Instead of designing for you, we want to be able to design with you. To do this effectively, we have to begin by asking people, what's currently challenging for you? What do you wish you had more time for? How can I help you with something today? What are the barriers that you feel prevent you from doing the work it is that you want to be able to do? With design thinking practices, we're able to create these amazing cultures of innovation because we began with a culture of empathy. I want to share an example with you. When I was first recruited by the University of Southern California, I came in and was tasked with the job of really bringing the faculty into the 21st century. And remember, I was a history teacher, so being in a medical school, I was in the medical school division, being in that space, to say that I was out of my comfort zone would be an understatement. And so I really had no choice but to sit back, but to listen and observe and learn about what their culture and community was like. And as I was observing the different students in their classes, I noticed one particular thing, that they would immediately just download the PowerPoint from Blackboard, open it up, and as the professor was lecturing, they would be listening for what's not on the slide and be writing it in the presenter notes part of the PowerPoint. Now, this is such a strange way to take notes. And so I asked them, I was like, has anyone ever taught you all the apps that are on your devices that you can use for note-taking? The answer was a unanimous no. Not one of our students that literally had about on average 2 to 3 devices had actually been taught how to use their technology for how to work and for how to learn. Not only had they not been taught the technology, we also learned from those conversations with our students that we don't want to learn any new technology alongside new content. That one insight led us to creating a digital skills orientation before classes began. That one orientation, it was about just a 3-hour orientation, allowed the students to learn how to use their technology in more effective ways. But not only did it do that, it allowed them to build more confidence. Instead of over 90% of our students being frustrated and angry anytime a professor wanted to introduce something new, we had 96% of our students sharing they would recommend this to others, and 98% sharing that this strengthened my engagement with the content. Had we never paused to ask those questions and observe, we likely would have continued down the path of teaching faculty and completely not realizing the very core of the challenge that was preventing us from moving forward. One of the reflections shared by the students was, I used to think that with all the technology on the market, that more people would know how to use this. But I was surprised to learn that they didn't. And even if they were fluent with it in other areas of their lives, they were surprised to learn that not so much with the tools in the classroom. What we learned from many of these reflections after the orientation was that every single student thought they were the only ones that didn't know how to use the technology in the most effective way, and that all their other friends did. So I want to ask you now, what are some primary barriers that you face in redesigning how we learn and how we work. If you had to sort of name one, what might some of those be for you? Resistance? A little louder. It's like time. And we probably will not be surprised to learn that time is the most mentioned reason for why people feel like they can't innovate, they can't redesign, even if they want to. 68% of employees say that they have no uninterrupted focus time during the day. And 66% of educators say that we are so overwhelmed, we don't even have time to be able to think about these different things. And while there's no way for us to add more hours to the day, what we can do is look at how we remove the inefficiencies that exist within those hours to give people back their time. Anyone want to guess what people cite as the #1 reason for not having time in the workplace? Meetings, absolutely. It is the #1 most shared reason for why they have no time. Not only is meetings mentioned as the #1 reason, it's also the inefficiencies with which those meetings are led. So you can probably guess the next example that I'm excited to share with you today is how do we take that time that we spend in meetings and turn it into a workshop experience? Now, let's think of our traditional meeting agenda. We come in, exchange formalities, which if you're on a Zoom can sometimes be even more awkward. We'll talk about the agenda items for the day. Maybe there'll be a presentation or two. And the worst part, I imagine, for many of us is the open forum and the open discussion where people go off on tangents, where one person will dominate the conversation, and so many other people won't have a chance to share their thoughts and ideas. Before you know it, time's up, meeting's over, gotta head to the next meeting. We leave often feeling more drained and as if we have more work to do at the very end instead of, wow, that time was spent so well. So I want to share with you today a method called visual collaboration. And I'm sure many of you have used, Post-its and things like that. But I want to share with you how when we use a tool like visual collaboration in collaboration with tools like Canva, we're able to take weeks worth of work and do it in just 60 minutes. So to begin, I'm going to turn to one of my favorite features in Canva, which is the whiteboard feature. Have any of you used whiteboards before in Canva? A couple, amazing. So for this meeting, let's say we have maybe the curriculum committee, maybe we have the superintendent, and let's say we have about 4 to 5 people coming together. They're reflecting on the school year. They're talking about how AI is being used. And oh my God, all these amazing updates are happening. What do we do next? So when I open up the whiteboard feature in Canva, one of the great things is there are a lot of templates for meetings that I can use. So we're going to search a design thinking template. Once this template comes up, I'm allowed to click it. And it's going to now appear on my board, ready for everyone to begin contributing their ideas. Like I said, many of you have probably used Post-it notes before, so it's not going to be anything so unique. But what this allows us to do is to allow every single individual in the room an opportunity to put their thoughts and their ideas down. No longer is just 1 or 2 people dominating the conversation. We're now creating more equitable opportunity for everybody to be able to participate. We're cutting out the noise of the discussion and getting all the ideas here. But it's great to have all your ideas and your thoughts down. What do you do with them? This is, again, another big area where we lose a lot of time. We'll categorize these and talk about them at the next meeting. But instead of waiting for that next meeting, we can actually call on our AI tools, bring them in as members of our team to be able to support us in this work. By highlighting all the notes, I can use the sort by topic feature to be able to have Canva tell me what are the top themes that emerged from all of these different ideas. And now I'm so much better positioned to be actually able to make a decision about which direction we can go in as a group. Using Canva's AI tools, you can also have people vote on which area they want to move forward on. So let's say we love the idea of exploring different education methods. What we need to do now is be able to be like, okay, we have this problem, we have some themes and some ideas, but now we need to actually talk about what that might look like. To do that, we need to turn our ideas into impact. Because we know what they say about ideas, right? If there's no plan for execution, they're pretty much worthless. So what we're going to do now is design a prompt to put into our AI tool to be able to turn that idea that we have into something really impactful that we can actually go out and implement. To do this, I'm excited to share with you today my Spark framework for designing prompts. What makes the Spark framework so unique is that it's designed to prompt the human before the machine. This is a very classic design thinking practice. And the reason we leverage this is because just the same way when we have a problem or a challenge, we immediately want to jump to a solution. Oftentimes, people treat their AI tools in the same way. Give me this, I need this, create this. What Spark allows you to do is to take a step back with your human team and actually reflect on what is our current situation? What is the problem we are really trying to solve? What is our aspiration, and why do we even care to solve this problem? What results are we looking for? And last but not least, Kismet is where ChatGPT or your AI tool comes in and shares a few ideas that you can really interrogate and choose between. So let's take a look at what the prompt might look like for the people in the meeting. They might say, we're in our leadership team meeting, we're talking about the rising impact of AI in education, but a primary concern that keeps emerging is cheating. Despite the potential that we see of AI, we're having our teachers struggle to create these exciting and enthusiastically engaging assignments. We want to redesign our 10th grade English curriculum to address cheating, but also make sure our kids are graduating with future-ready skills. We want to develop a learning model where students can showcase their understanding through projects and creativity. Our teachers love Canva, so if we can integrate that, that would be fantastic. Give us 3 to 4 ideas on how we could move forward. And now what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste this prompt, put it into our AI tool. We're using ChatGPT here, but here's where it gets special. We're also going to take a screenshot of our whiteboard so that the tool can also see the ideas that we've already been talking and discussing. So over here, I've got my prompt in, I've got a screenshot of the ideas, and now it's ready to generate something for me based on the conversation that we as a team had. Collaborative research presentations, interactive literature analysis, and perhaps my favorite, a visual essay. So let's say the group in the meeting decides, okay, visual essays, that sounds like a fantastic idea. We once again are going to turn to our whiteboard, and this time we need an action plan. Because again, ideas are fantastic, but if we don't have a plan for implementation, which is where the weeks and the months often come in, we're stuck with it just being an idea. But we don't really have time to sit here and fill all this out. We're about 35 minutes in. We're going to take a screenshot of this table as well. We're going to go back to our AI tool. In this case, we're using ChatGPT. And we're going to ask it, hey, we love the idea of doing visual essays, but we need to fill in this table. Can you help us? So there's my screenshot, adding it in, letting it know which idea I want to go with. And just like that, it's now going to generate an action plan for us. Now remember, we get to interrogate these ideas. We don't have to take it at face value. Maybe this item's a little overly ambitious for us to do in a day. Maybe we're missing a step over here. Or maybe we are inspired and think of something new that we want to integrate and bring in. By this time, our meeting is sort of coming to an end. We've delegated out responsibilities. And what I need to do now is create a meeting summary doc. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to turn my whiteboard into a document that can be shared out with a nice summary for everyone around what we talked about, what ideas were shared, what our action plan is, and what it is we're going to do next. What I love about these particular documents is that they are living documents. We can continue to collaborate on these. We can comment on these, just as you saw this morning in the keynote. We can turn this doc into a PowerPoint, a Canva presentation, anything it is we need to be able to help move us forward in the work we want to do, all in about 60 minutes. And this, friends, is how just one way in which we can turn our AI tools into our teammates. But like I shared earlier, to be successful in this work, it's not enough to just teach people the technology. One of the things the research also tells us is that it's really important to have a culture of trust and safety. One where every single individual really understands these are my strengths. This is the value that I bring to the table, and this is how my AI tools can complement me and the work me and my team want to do. One of the reasons I bring this up is because we know it's a problem. Many workplaces today, how many of your workplaces have actual AI guidelines and have talked to you about AI use? And so that's very reflective of exactly the data you're going to see on the screen. And 78% of people are saying, you know what? This is such a useful tool. I'm not going to wait for my leadership team to come and decide what our plan is going to be moving forward. So here's a new term for us, BYOAI. And that's what we see 78% of employees doing in the workplace. Not only 78% of employees bringing their own AI and figuring this out themselves, over 50% of people are also sharing, I don't want to tell anyone else how I'm using it, especially for the work that's really important, because I'm afraid people will think I'm replaceable. This tells us we don't just have a technology challenge, we have a leadership crisis. And if we're going to get even more specific, we really have a communication challenge. For a leadership team to be able to tell people this is why we're using it, why you're not replaceable, and really building those cultures of trust and safety for everyone. So what's next? Because I feel like if you're here, you are somebody who is a little ahead of the curve. You're that person who is excited to redesign work, eager to take things back to your workplaces. So here are 3 methods that I've used over the past 15 years, because AI is one change. There are so many that we've experienced before, and there's many more that are going to continue to come. The first place that I believe is so important to start from is really understanding what energizes you. What are the things that are so uniquely human about you? What is the value? What do you bring? What is that uniqueness that you bring to the table? And have that conversation with your peers and colleagues, friends and families as well. One of my favorite ways to do this is a free assessment called the Spark Type. And the Spark Type will give you some insight. This is what energizes you, and it will also tell you this is what drains you. Number 2, in the next week or 2, I encourage you to think about just one challenge. Every single day we go to work and there are always these moments like, oh no, I got to do this, like, oh, we got to do that project. Anytime you have that feeling of overwhelm or frustration, ask yourself, how can AI tools help me? How might we turn this challenge into an opportunity using how might we and all of the many AI tools we have available? And last but not least, who are your people? Sometimes they're inside your organization and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we collaborate with people outside and bring that knowledge in and build up people inside there. But look around and find the people that you are able to experiment with. I hope you leave today with one commitment for how you are going to be able to redesign work. Because so many people are waiting for somebody else to share with them, what's the plan? How are we using this? How are we moving forward? And one of the things I've really observed from working with many, many leadership teams is they don't have a lot of answers. And they're looking to everybody around them to bring those ideas, to be that leader. And so I want you to remember and encourage your teams to think about this as well. Leaders are not defined by their titles. They are defined by their ideas, their initiative, and their impact. This work is not easy. There is no AI tool that can launch out communication plans. It can help you write them all day long and create the videos and marketing materials. But that work that is deeply human, of connecting with others, making people feel safe, building that trust, is deeply human work, and it is not easy work. So I am curious to hear from you. What questions do you have about how you might take some of the ideas that you're hearing today back with you as you think about building these ideas and redesigning how we work and how we learn? Yes.
The meeting that you talk about, does everyone have to be on Canva at the same time?
Does everyone have to be on Canva at the same time? No. So for example, I mean, if you wanted to have like real-time discussion, we would all have to be on synchronously. But we could have people join virtually, we could have people in person, and we don't have to be in the same space. But we could also, we do this a lot when we are sometimes interviewing people and we want to gather data around ideas. We can leave it open. We can send the link out. Is that kind of what you're asking? Yeah, absolutely. You can kind of send that link out and you can create a time frame window. You know, for the next 7 days, we're going to leave this open. Feel free to put your ideas in. And sometimes it's nice because sometimes people like don't have an idea, but they'll see other people put things and it will inspire ideas for them. So yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you. Any other questions as you think about going back and doing this work? How many of you are responsible for AI integration in your organization? So even if your hand is not raised, believe me when I say your leadership team is looking for you to take that initiative, bring those ideas, and share something.
Hi. Hello.
Oh.
Hi. Can you anonymize, you know how you do the group online, can you anonymize the people who are giving input just so you avoid groupthink?
Yeah, I can't be 100% sure. I don't know if I have a Canva person here, but I believe you can by just opening up the link and saying anyone with this can come in and join instead of actually inviting people in. But don't double check me on that one. So yeah, I think we had a question over here. Yeah.
More of a general AI question. How do you convince people that you're not trying to replace them?
I know. I think that one is so important. And I have to say, I feel like I say this so much and it sounds so simple, but I'll tell you another observation I have is that because we are so caught up in the grind of the day-to-day work, a lot of people have actually really forgotten who they are uniquely. It's not something that we bring to the workplace every single day. And so when people read the Spark type and they read, and it doesn't have to be the Spark type. Some people like Clifton strengths. Some people like different things. I personally like the Spark type because I love the idea of what energizes you at work. People reading that, it gives them a moment to reconnect. Yeah, that actually is me. And sometimes when people take it, they'll even be like, no, that's not me. But after reflecting a little bit or hearing their peers be like, no, you do that. You do say this. They begin to reconnect with themselves. And I think that's a really big part of introducing AI is really allowing people to see these are your strengths. Being the person who tells other people before you introduce it, this is what makes you so special. And here's how AI can help create more of that. I'm definitely not somebody who's super optimistic that every single person is going to be completely okay. I don't say that at all. But I do deeply believe that every single person has something unique about them that they are able to use to adapt. Even if it's maybe not in your exact same industry, you may find a completely new passion for yourself because you connected with those strengths that then you can demonstrate to others. And so that communication piece, this is me, this is what I do, this is how I do it, which by the way, if you haven't seen the portfolio builder section in Canva under websites, it's absolutely phenomenal. Just a short video of you, what you love, what you do, how you do it, and putting that in somebody else's hands as a portfolio can help you begin to make that transition. And so there is a lot of personal reflection and self-awareness that I think is really important for people when we're leading teams and working with each other. Again, deeply human work that's really, really important in allowing people that confidence to know that you are so much more than writing emails and drafting presentations all day long. We might have one more. Are we good? All right, amazing. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here, and I wish you the best of luck.